Stampers, this is Sheila with Stampin' Wishes. Today we're going to be doing another fun fold and had to use some more of the Halloween items. I'm going to be using, and I'll show you the inside in a minute, we're going to be using the Birds of Feather. I want to use the Trick or Treat. I used it just in here. I didn't want to put too much on the front and let the designer paper speak for itself. And then in the inside we're going to be using our Boo to You, which is a precious set. I really enjoy coloring them and changing their colors up all the time. So let's set these aside for right now. All right, we're also going to be using the designer paper that is from the Monster Bash Designer Series, and there's a whole suite of their items. We're going to be using some of the enamel pieces from that suite right here. Love them. And let's set that off to the side, and then we're going to use some of my favorite, this glittery organdy ribbon I thought was ideal for it. So let me open it up and we will get started. Okay, so when you open your card up, you're going to see some cute little characters in there. Let me get it open here. I tie a real good bow. No, this particular ribbon ties really, really well. That's why I used it. And when you open it up, our little monster's just sweet. Okay, and so of course you can see how it has the in and out shape, and you could virtually use this design for anything. Birthdays, butterflies, Christmas. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's quick, it's simple, and a lot of fun. And then in the back what I did was just to put a little strip of the DSP there, and then I left this blank with the black instead of say the white or whatever. I guess we could have left a white and just put this there, but I like the combination of this, and I will use my chalk pen that's Stampin' Up! Sale to write my little greeting when I mail this off. So anyway, I thought this would be a really cute card to do today, so let's go ahead and get started making it. All right, so let's go ahead and bring out our score because we're going to need it here very shortly. And for all the little, well, let's do this. For all these little pieces, what I did to make it quick and simple, I used the shimmery white because, again, I love, anytime I'm coloring, I love using that shimmery white. I used the square, which would be 1 and 2, this one here for the outside, the black, and then I used the inside one for the, let's see, how do we go? No, just the opposite. We're going to use, I'm glad I measured that there. We're using number 2, I count from the outside, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so we're using number 2 for our inside and number 4 for the outside, and that's about the maximum you can go with the spacing that you have, so you might want to keep that in mind. But this was much easier doing this than to cutting and layering, and you could put more layers in there if you wanted to. There's plenty of space depending on the design that you make. So let's set these off to the side. We'll stamp those in a minute. All right, so then what we have next is on our let's bring our cardstock in. Our cardstock is the 12 by 12, and you can get that in your white and vanilla, a complete pack, which gives you, I want to say it's 12 sheets. But also, don't forget your other color groups, because they also have the 12 by 12, and they usually have 2 sheets per color in that particular batch. So don't leave out your colored 12 by 12s. All right, so what we're doing with this one is we cut it at 4 1/8 by 11 1/2 inches, and we're going to go ahead and score it at 5 3/4. So let's go ahead and get this scored. We're going to come right up here to our 5 3/4 mark and give it a little score there. Okay, and then we will always fold against your score lines whenever you're bringing them in there. And I always like to, even when I score it, just in case it's a little bit off, I always like, if I'm not holding it right, I like to come down and burnish it, holding my ends together, and that way I've got a nice look from the front and the back of it. Okay, and then we have a 1 inch by 11 inch strip here, and what we're going to do on this one is we're going to go ahead and score it at 2 3/4 inch, and I'll have all these measurements popping up as we go, so you don't need to hurry and write them down as I'm telling you what they are. So we're going to go at 2 3/4, 5 1/2. Let's bring out our arm here. And understand we're going to be getting a new cutter before too long. Hopefully by the end of the year the demonstrators will get it, and then we'll roll it out soon after that. So our next score line is 8 1/4. So let's bring that in here. Right at 8 1/4, and there's our scores on those. Okay, and I don't believe we need this anymore, so we're going to set that aside. And then what we've cut here using that Designer Series paper is I've got a panel for the front and 2 for the inside. And these particular ones are cut at 3 3/4 by 5 3/8 this way, and I've got 3 of those. And this little piece here was kind of like an afterthought, so let me measure that out real quick. It's 1 1/4 by about 3 7/8. Okay. And I imagine you could go up to 4 depending on how this measure out, but I think this one is the 3 7/8. It is. Okay. So then you have 3 of the crushed curry, and these measure 3 7/8 by 5 1/2, and so does your black piece here. Okay. So let's go ahead and get our ribbon out, because we're going to need, when we cut our ribbon, I want to put it in when I'm layering my piece. What I did on the ribbon, because I really didn't know how much I needed for tying the bow, so I'm just kind of taking a little guess here and snip it. As long as you have enough to tie your bow is the main thing. Okay. And then I like to use Scotch tape to put my pieces on the front and back before I layer them. This way I can pretty well get them even with each other by seeing that. So I just bring it in here, and I kind of eye it. If you want to, you can bring it into your grid paper. And what do we have here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So if we count into 8 right here, then we will get about the middle. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right about there. And it doesn't have to be exact. I prefer eyeing it, and that's what this homemade card's all about. You don't have to be always exact on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and tape our, see, I've already moved it, so there again, it doesn't matter as long as you can get the 2 of them lining up is the main thing on this. So let's bring this over and flip it, and then we will bring this piece in here with that. Okay. Now we'll set this over here for a second, and let's go ahead and get our, since this is our back, let's go ahead and get this one on first. Okay. That looks good there, so let's go ahead and, ooh. I love the glue that it gives you that extra time period to adhere, but sometimes I get a little bit quick with moving it, so got to be careful of that too. I'm going to bring in some of my thin one here so I can get these corners. I didn't get the corner real well. And right in there too. All right, so now let's go ahead and get our little strip of paper here, and let's see, this is going to be opening like so, so we want to make sure we have our directions correct on it. And if you notice, it fits right there and covers that piece of, kind of gives you a little bit of the design of the front, and helps to cover a little bit of the areas there. So let's go ahead and put that there, and now, like I said, you've got that whole section here now to write your greeting on. And I love to use our chalk pens for that, because they really work out nicely. Okay, so let's go ahead and get all of our layers put together here, here, and here. Make it a little bit faster, because we've already. Okay, I always like to dry fit because when I'm up there cutting, I can sometimes miscount, count, and I'm thinking I'm cutting it right when I'm not. And as if you noticed here, the DSP is just a little bit long, and the DSP should have been at 5 3/8. And let's see what I cut it at, just to get an idea. So 5 3/8 would be 1, 2, 3. Yes, we're going to bring it in to about 5 1/4. And it could be that my other paper was cut a little bit short, but let's go ahead and remove that and make sure we get our, yeah, that's what we needed. Trimmed up well. And a good lesson to always, this has still some tackiness to it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it down like it is. All right. And then we have this piece here, so let's go ahead and get it down. My husband always had a saying is you want to measure twice and cut once type deal, and he's right. You have better fittings that way and less mistakes, but we got it, and that's the main thing. Alright, so let's go ahead and put this here. And before I assemble it, I'm going to go ahead and glue my, stamp my little front with the Trick or Treat. That way I won't have the bulkiness of the card once it's put together. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll kind of do a all-at-in type assembly. I'll get everything, all the pieces ready for it, and then we'll go and assemble it all at one time. I always think that works a little bit better. Okay, so let's do our Trick or Treat here. Alright. And again, like I said, I want it to look like part of the DSP and not stand out too much, because the DSP in this case I think spoke for itself, and it had plenty of fun little designs on it, and I didn't feel we needed to overdo it. We might put one more right there. I think would balance it out real nicely. Okay. Now the other thing that I did with the little design is I brought my Wink of Stella in and just quickly washed over with the Wink of Stella the little houses, not everything, but just mainly the houses, so that when the paper is tilted or the card is tilted, it catches that little bit of glitter, which is what that shimmery of the night showing up there. And the reason I'm holding it like this, because I am squeezing, I wanted to get a continuous flow of it out to make sure I got plenty on it. Okay, so then let's go ahead and put our enamel pieces on it, and then our front will be put together. We'll put one of the birds. And this is, this particular one, I don't know if you can see, it says Monster Bash enamel. Again, I'll have all of the pieces and parts on the film so you'll be able to see it. I kind of like this one, kind of talking. And we'll put it right there on the house, top of the haunted house there. Alright, and then let's get us a couple of our little enamel dots in there. Again, just to kind of give it some bling. And let's put one about there. And then our little grave sides there, we've got the spider wood. Let's use the bats this time, I think, on here. And I just brought this down to the corner of it. There we go. Okay, so this is ready to put on the card when we're ready for it. So let's set that aside. All right, and then we're going to set these aside with the card for a little bit. And now it's time to stamp our monsters and get them colored. And I've gone ahead and I set up my pieces here, so it'd be quick and easy to go through it. And when I start to color this, I am going to put it on fast forward, because I'm sure y'all really don't want to watch me in slow motion coloring, and I will list all the colors that I use. I like to use a temporary, when I'm the small pieces like this on my Stamparatus, I just use some of my temporary adhesive, nail adhesive, and it allows it to stay long enough for me to get in there and ink up what I need to ink up and stamp it. Okay, so let's do that. And what we're doing today with the monster, if you noticed here, he's facing himself, and so I'll bring in my silicone sheet and we'll do the mirrored image on it. I use that technique a lot with the stamps. I just love that effect. And so we're going to go here and tack that down for when we're ready to turn the monster around and do it. So to do that, I just find a good clean spot that I don't have glue and stuff like that on usually, and it looks like I've got a little bit of glue, so let me take a baby wipe and clean that off real quick. I do try and clean these fairly fast afterwards, but every once in a while I get a little bit sloppy there, I guess, and go on about my business and not clean up my stuff like I should. Something else I use on these every once in a while is either alcohol or WD-40 will also take off your glue, or Glue Be Gone. Those are several different things. Whatever you have of those around the house is good. Alright, so we're going to come and bring this over, and I'm smashing it pretty good down there because I want to transfer all of that ink over. And then we're going to line it up like we did the other one, hopefully. And what I do is I kind of hold it in place unless I haven't smashed all the colors, and when I know my colors look good, then I just go ahead and lift it up. Okay. Do our outside real quick. And I use the blends, and it's fast and everything too, but so are our watercolors pencils. Those are always a lot of fun too, so don't rule them out as part of your coloring media to use whenever you're doing your cards like this. It calls for that kind of thing. Okay, so let's open up the card and bring this over here and bring this one in. Bring this here. Okay. So now when we bring this piece in, we're going to have, put this together like this. You're going to have this particular one, and you want to try and center it between this piece and this piece over here. So as you can see, I'm kind of eyeing it. I've still got my center piece here, right? And so what I'm going to do is fold this in and try and keep it within my balanced piece there. So we'll go ahead and fold it in. And bring that one down. And we're going to do the same thing with the other piece. We're going to bring it over here, bring it in, and bring us a little adhesive on the mechanism here. Okay. All right, for my pieces that we're going to put on here, I'm going to use a little piece of tear and tape in the center here so that we don't adhere any of your pieces back here, because you want them to be able to lift up and peek up and stuff. So let's go ahead, and this one will, always have to stop and think about which way it's going to go, but as you can see the mechanism, how it works, and gives you a W or an upside or an M, depending on which direction you're looking at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our tear and tape, and our card will be complete. So I said it's a quick and easy technique card, fun fold card. I love doing different fun folds and enhancing what already are gorgeous stamps and papers and stuff, but it's fun to come up with different folds as well, and you get a lot of oohs and ahs from the people that receive them, especially when they're not card makers and they're thinking, oh my gosh, how did they do that, right? So I always try and do that whenever I can. I'm just rubbing that tape down to make sure that the tape portion of it stays down onto the cardstock and doesn't want to come back up with it. So I always try and run either my bone folder or something like the lid I did just then. Okay, so we know our two little guys, mummy, or not mummies, what are they called? Somebody out there probably knows what I'm trying to think of. Okay, so let's put this little character over here. You want to make sure that you're spacing and lining them up the best you can so that they look nice and even when they open. There we go. Okay, so now they're all even, and when you open it up, this is what you have. So let's go ahead and tie this one up. And you can tie it however you want. I usually trim my ribbon after I've tied it. That way I know about what I need to tie a nice size bow to it. And so now we can just come along and trim that up. And I like, for these type of cards, I do like to leave a little bit larger bow. All right, so here's our card, all complete and done. So I hope you'll try this technique, and if you need to play. Okay, so we're done with our cards now, and as you can see, they're really fun, fast, just adorable. So if you need to place an order, go to mystampingwishes.com and hit my order button, and it'll take you right to my stamping site 7 days a week. All right, so until next time, happy creating and God bless.